but I'm really excited to be part of the National Climate Action Network. We in Renfrewshire have just recently established a more regional, local one, as it were. Real presentation is just to show some of the kind of grassroots stuff that's going on in Fergusley Park as a whole. I am the current chairperson of the local community council there, and also the project lead of its environmental subsidiary, which is Darkwood Crew. However, rather than me just focus specifically on Darkwood Crew, I thought I would broaden it out to include Fergusley Park as a whole, because there's a real plethora of organisations which all fall under the community council that all have that distinct environmental focus, as well as the social economic aspect of our work. So we can just move on. Just to introduce Fergusley Park, it's my favourite place of the world. I've been born and raised there. We have just over 4,000 of us. It is, however, been in a constant state of regeneration since 1969. It's a well-documented community. It's been on a seemingly never-ending journey. But as you can see, just from looking at it, it looks like a park. It's very green. It's surrounded by a lot of trees, forests, things like that. So, however, we are right next to the airport. So climate change is a huge issue for us. Moving on. Just to give you a background in the context of the community, when it comes to anyone who perhaps lives or works in what is essentially termed a deprived community, you'll understand that if you're trying to keep the lights on and feed the kids, and climate change perhaps isn't necessarily high up in the priority list. And we need to be cognizant with that in everything that we do. So just there is a distinct lack of understanding about what climate change is. It speaks to local people in a language that they don't understand. Metric tons of carbon and stuff like that just switch people off. It's not something that they can relate to. Dare I point out as well that there's negative perceptions of the climate change agenda. Locally, it strikes me that people view climate change as, oh, we are having to sacrifice something, we are having to give something up, and they don't necessarily look at the benefits that can be drawn from some of the measures that I'll go on to explain in respect of climate change. And apathy is huge. There is naive consciousness when connecting the global issues to the local context. And the next slide will show you, however, that the connections are there, that the impacts of climate change in our community are severe. We had a huge, devastating flooding episode in 1994. You can go onto YouTube after this and see it. It was really the most horrendous experience I've ever had in my life. And we've had repeated flooding events, albeit not quite as severe, periodically since then. So it's an opportunity to really drive home the point that global climate change, isn't something that happens in the South Pacific. It's not something that fires happen in Italy. It's happening right here in Paisley, in Renfrewshire as well. It's not this faraway, distant problem. Next. With all of that having been said, however, there are some key links and opportunities. I don't think there's any ambiguity or any disagreement with the suggestion that climate justice is social justice. And when I'm working in a kind of socio-economic deprived area, if you like, yeah, the links are intrinsic. They're so noticeable, they're so vivid. It's just really about joining up the dots. And this wee graphic on the right really caught my attention. We need to be locally relevant, but globally consistent. And I just felt that Dartwood Crew's real kind of mantra, if you like, is that a greener, more sustainable planet starts with greener, more sustainable communities. If it doesn't, I think we're kidding ourselves on, aren't we? So next. So a brief history. In light of what I said, one big regeneration project since 1969. The Community Council re-established itself in 2017 after a 20 years recess, and that was given rise to as a direct feeling of things being constantly done to the community rather than done alongside or in conjunction with the community. And right off the first kick of the ball, we had 45 people attend the inaugural general meeting, and the primary concern of local people at that time was the environment. Now, you could have blown me down with a feather. I would have thought it would have been other more pressing social-economic challenges, lack of youth work, maybe elderly care. But no, the overall overwhelming feeling of local people was that the community had been neglected, environmental maintenance wasn't going on. That was giving rise to the whole broken window theory. Well, if the council doesn't give a monkeys, then why should I type thing? And we're seeing increases in fly tipping, wheelie bins on fire, all the usual urban decay type problems that you find in communities. And that very quickly gave rise to the establishment of 3 subsidiaries with very distinct, clearly defined, but very well understood roles. So Pals of the Privies, 2018, On Your Dartwood Crew was also 2018, and On Your Bike in 2019. Moving on. So Pals of the Privies, just a very brief synopsis. This is a group of women in the local community who are all united in the sense that they all of them lost their mums really early on in life, and they have quite literally taken over a 5.5 acre park, which had become a hotspot for antisocial behaviour, open-air drug dealing, all sorts of crazy nonsense. And they've made this park literally the jewel of the crown of Fergusley Park. It's beautiful to the point where it's had such a profound impact on shifting local attitudes, particularly after the pandemic. The park became such a fantastic and well-appreciated venue for local community events to take place, because everything all had to be done outside. So yeah, all credit to them. And we would never have anticipated how valuable that work would have been until the pandemic struck. And then we thought, oh, we all need to go outside. So it's a really lovely place to be. Moving on. On Your Bike, another skill. Started off as a wee Friday club on a Friday afternoon, teaching kids how to kind of repair their bikes and stuff, because we can't speak about those alternative active travel options. Again, if you don't have a bike and you're struggling to feed the kids, I'm not sure that people are going to take up that active travel option. And the irony is, it's people with least who'd be most willing to take up that active travel if they're simply assisted or kind of led, educated, if you like, in how they go about that. So there's bikes lying all over the community, doing nothing. They needed repairs. Again, they weren't necessarily top priority for people, given their financial circumstances. And Mark, to his credit, he's very engineering, he's very bikey. We've now established a cycling hub within the community, and over 3,500 bikes have been distributed within the community, free, recycled, repaired, brought back to life, and offered out to the community. And let me tell you, I never saw so many. You would feel as if you were in Amsterdam for a short period. There's so many bikes, all over the place, bikes, to the point we've had to implement some infrastructure within the local community to actually accommodate that, bike racks and the likes. Moving on.
That's 2 minutes left, Terry.
No worries. This is the gist of it anyway. Dartwood Crew is the one that I could speak most frequently about. Started off very much on the same basis as Pals of the Privies, the local village green. You've got the aerial view there. Again, had been taken over by local young people as a drinking hotspot at the weekend and stuff. And yeah, they've regenerated it. You'll see the 4 images there, the nature of some of the community engagement type events that they've been responsible for. Number of the agencies that we've partnered up with to improve the area, utilise all the resources that we have at our disposal. Moving on, the pandemic happened, changed everything, forced us out of our comfort zones. We were all forced to work differently. And by God, look at the positive outcomes that were achieved by that working outside of the box. Some of the figures there, I won't run over them, you can see them for yourself. But genuinely, a real social capital exists within Fergusley Park. I would argue is unrivaled anywhere else in the country. But there's been a complete culture change, a complete shift in local attitudes as to the local environment. We don't see fly tipping at all now. It is literally all eradicated. So yeah, the green spaces are very much valued spaces, and there's all sorts of local engagement exercises going on, local people going out and cleaning up folks who's just dropped their rubbish down the back country road because they've missed the bin man, local people taking that upon themselves to go and remedy that. That simply didn't happen before, so it illustrates that real change in attitude. Next one. So after the pandemic, Darkwood Crew essentially combined all its pre- and post-pandemic activities, the appliance and large furniture recycling initiative, our community meal, our community market, which works very similar to a pantry, entirely resourced by surplus food. We have a 26-mile-a-day surplus food collection run. We visit a variety of high street stores, supermarkets, etc. Bring that food back to the Tannahill Centre and then make that available to local people every Thursday morning. I'm clearly not there today. But yeah, it's such a scratch where it itches approach. People are struggling to feed their kids against the backdrop of a declared climate change emergency, and the local co-op is literally throwing a ton of food into the bin every week. It's not rocket science. It is literally just about, if you like, joining up the dots and making that again relevant to local need. And what I said that before, climate change is something that people think, oh, I'm having to give something up in order to do buyback for climate change. No. This is examples of where you can actually gain from climate change in an understandable, localised way. This slide just demonstrates our journey. We've kind of progressively gone up. We've literally just received this year's award, where we're again at level 5. But for a community like Fergusley Park, to be recognised in that way is really something special, and again seeks to highlight, if you like, the real shift. This notion that working class communities don't care about the environment, it's just for the birds. It's nonsense, frankly. And that is just our reduce, reuse, recycle is that all in one basket project. And that's just some of the stats that we've accrued over the last 3 years. Some of it is really quite impressive. You look at the murals there, for example, as well. It's a very artistic, creative way in which to communicate properly and at a level which is understandable with the local community, and again makes it relevant to their lives rather than this airy-fairy concept that nobody understands. And I suppose the final slide, I think, which is just the key principles in the learning over recent years: when problems is all we look for, problems is all we'll find. Instead, what we've done in Fergusley is we focus on what is strong, not what's wrong. We all know what's wrong. What's strong is more important. Popular educational methods, truly dialectic in nature and relevant to the needs, produces demonstrable shifts in unconsciousness levels and changes in local attitudes and behaviours, and indeed increased participation levels. Since 1969, 3 major regeneration attempts, 3 different governments by 3 different political parties, all of which have been independently concluded as having participation notional, tokenistic and non-existent. It's because it was all irrelevant. Local people didn't see that that was for them. That's why we've adopted this approach. And finally, just to top it off, if you like, we believe climate action provides a lens through which to positively tackle poverty within communities like Fergusley Park, and as I say, that dignified and sustainable way. Thank you.
So welcome to Midlothian Wildflowers. This is my very first webinar, and I'm really grateful to Scan for inviting me, in particular Joanna, and who sees faith in Midlothian Wild's vision for moving forward to address the climate and ecological emergency that we face. But not only that emergency, it's the mental health, the health and well-being emergency that we face in local communities throughout Scotland. And it's very prevalent in Midlothian, particularly with young people. And we see a need to support young people through our project. So we've been doing that and working with local high schools and local Scouts and Beavers groups and other young people and children and families. But first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Chris Sides, who is the gentleman with the rake. So he is the gentleman, an ecologist and a community worker who works for Pennycook Community Development Trust. He inspired me to create this organisation in my living room. We both share passions for the environment. We shared an allotment together. We gave it up actually for climate and to focus more on developing projects in Midlothian. So I want to say thank you to him for being a founder member of Midlothian Wildflowers and guiding me in the right direction. And it's really important to take guidance from our elders in the community, people who've got real experience. So he's an experienced ecologist. He's worked for SNH. He's worked for Pennycook Community Development Trust for many years, developing projects. He's part of Pennycook Recycles. He helped set that up. Plots, he helped set that up, another upcycling initiative, and also helped to set up Midlothian Wildflowers. And we're all volunteers. None of us get paid for any of the work that we do, but we are 100% committed to the communities that we work in. So moving on from that, below that image is Katie Lonsdale. So she's a very dedicated volunteer, part of our board. She's a young person. She lives in another area of Midlothian. She supports projects out in Midlothian on behalf of Midlothian Wildflowers. So we're creating networks and partnerships, supporting other projects locally as a Midlothian Wild organisation. So that's her there, holding bat boxes, which we made as part of an Action Earth grant, with young people again to support biodiversity through wildflower meadows as habitats. So many people engaged in that project, and it was wonderful. And it only cost £250 from Action Earth to engage about, what, 20 young people? And it's not the first Action Earth grant. We've had 2 Action Earth grants. We've also extended the woodland in Rosewell. And this is a volunteer. And I think that image sort of captures the happiness in which engaging in the environment can generate and propagate in amongst people. So she's a lady that lives locally. She has children with special needs. She comes out onto the meadow, she engages with her family, and they go home and they feel well and they be well. And that's what's really good about engaging in the environment. So if we move on to the next slide, we'll talk about how we work in partnership to enable us to meet the needs of communities and for it to have meaningful engagement, and so that it persists and it's consistent across the board, and that also people understand what our mission is and we get our mission out there. So we've joined in collaboration and membership with many people and organisations. So Midlothian Climate Action Network, which is a new action network, it's quite new, it's existed for just a year. So we've joined them. We've been part of the steering group for them, so we've helped to steer it on its way in Midlothian. And it's really important that grassroots community groups get involved in networks, steering groups. They're proactive within them to enable a wider reaching community engagement. So Midlothian Wildflowers are on Rosewell and District Community Council as well. We've joined SCAN, and we're part of the Volunteer Midlothian, where we pay a membership to every year, which helps us to promote our volunteering opportunities, but it also helps us with policy, with training, with skills development, and with networking. So it's wonderful. And also Volunteer Scotland links into them, and they provide us with volunteers. We also work in partnership with the local authority, which has provided us with permission to, if we move on to the next slide, well, that's a little poster. If we go back again, sorry, I'll just show you the poster, sorry. Can we go back again? Back again. Sorry, it's just the poster, next one, that's it. Sorry, guys. So the poster here, I want to just talk to you about. We've got funding from SCAN and we've got funding from Midlothian Climate Action Network. With those fundings, those seed corn grants that we got from these networks, it's enabled us to kind of level up in our reach through social media. So we get to create these wonderful posts and posters and flyers, which we're able to put out in the community. And it's a very creative way to engage people. And it also broadens your network across social media, so other people out with Midlothian get to know about your organisation. Yep, moving on, thanks for that. So moving on from that, we work in partnership with Midlothian Council. So what Midlothian Wildflowers done was took an opportunity to working in and against policy. So there was a policy that was adopted by Midlothian Council a long time ago, and it was called Adopting a Green Space. So I found out about that little policy and I had a good look at it, and I thought, right, I'm going to take advantage of this policy and I'm going to create my own grassroots organisation to address the climate and ecological crisis on my doorstep, because I was committed to working in North Edinburgh for a period of 7 years, doing the same thing with children and families. And it was actually taking its toll on me. So I had to come away from that and focus on local actions like what you're doing in Fergusley Park. You know, you're on your homeland, you need to get involved in your green spaces on your doorstep. It becomes much more meaningful to me. I don't know about anyone else, but to take local action on your local doorstep and work with the people in your communities is much more meaningful to me. And it's what I feel really passionate about. So we were granted permission from the council to adopt 2 significant large wildflower meadows, which have been left neglected for a period of about 6 years. So they're vital, significant, huge habitats which support huge amounts of biodiversity as well as people. So they're urban green spaces which provide outdoor opportunities, which I think enables us to connect with the land and each other in a really meaningful and healthy way. These meadows allow us to take meaningful climate and ecological action while supporting the health and well-being of individuals, but also collectively as a community, because we're enhancing it, we're enriching it, and we're engaging in it, and we're connected to it. So it becomes much more meaningful through that kind of engagement. Now, we do it with all different kinds of people from all different backgrounds, and we're really proud of that engagement. So the land will help you to engage with people if you get people to appreciate it for what it is. And I think when we cut through this emergency and we use the land in a really positive way to take positive actions, it becomes meaningful to people. So it's good. So we take action for climate and biodiversity, but we also want to create and provide and develop creative opportunities which come from the landscape and inspire. So we're looking to develop workshops with artists who are involved in the environment as well. So I've got a lot of experience in environmental art education from my previous jobs, and I want to bring meadows, habitats, biodiversity into the world of art, you know, and that's a wonderful partnership to have. So these pictures are showing you the Dirty Weekenders from Edinburgh
It's 2 minutes.
Edinburgh University Climate. There's bat boxes which we built with the Action Earth grant, and we also hold butterfly conservation, butterfly counts on the meadows across these meadows, and that's all about community engagement. It's all about connectedness, and it's all about supporting people and planet. Move on to the next slide. Quickly go through these slides. So we explore green spaces as well as a form of community engagement with young people, with people from all different backgrounds, and the importance of exploring and getting to know your green spaces, that people become more connected to it, they want to engage with it, they're finding about things they've never even dreamt about, they don't know about mushrooms, they don't know the importance of trees and mushrooms, they don't know about wildflowers, they don't know about plants as medicine, all different things, and actually what habitats and wildflower meadows are. So here we are on a beautiful partnership work with Chloe from from Helpful Herbs. So it's a joint group session which had about 16 people at it from all different ages and backgrounds, where we really connect with the flora and the fauna. And if you look at the bottom image, that's a native wildflower meadow. Now that's based right on our doorsteps. That's based in Roslin Glen, you know, a beautiful scientific site of interest, you know, an SSI, but also a very special heritage site. So we're blessed with these places to engage with. And we don't really need to work that hard if we know about the landscape, you know, because we can promote that inspiration. So if we move forward from that onto the next one. So creating urban wild spaces is really important for us as well. It supports the work in partnership that they do with the Butterfly Conservation Trust. So it's about creating urban wild spaces, developing a polytunnel project. We were kindly donated a polytunnel project for a year where we grew plug plants, trees, and edibles for food security, for a plant sale to raise funds. Now we're building a new polytunnel project with our funds that we got. We're supporting the butterfly emergency as well, something we feel very passionate about. So we're saving seed, growing native wildflowers, propagating tree seeds, taking cuttings and we're growing organic food crops as well to sell, but also to give to people as donations that they might want, and also for trees for other projects and the partnerships that we work. So we work in partnership with Three Hares Community Woodland as well. So we work with young people there to learn about the environment. So yeah, it's all about encouraging community well-being and growth. And this is about growing in residential areas, this polytunnel project. So it comes from a pilot. So that's us developing it on out into the community so they can see the expansion of the community networks. They're growing, the engagement's growing, and it all comes through engaging with the planet and with people and through growing and connectedness, or what we might call a crisis, but actually, like we say, what Terry is saying, it's opportunities for us to come together and grow and flourish and join in solidarity and hope, and for active hope as well. So moving on, if I've got a final one, there's a plant sale poster. So yeah, we raised over about £400 from that. And that was, again, networks that were created through community engagement, through the walks, developing growing networks, using greenhouses, inspiring people through plants, but getting people to understand about the whole ecosystem and about how we as humans are part of that intrinsic, entangled web of life. So yeah, it's fantastic. And it's really, really inspiring. And thanks to everyone that supported us to do that, by the way. It was really, really hard work. It took a lot of networking, a lot of resources, which we got funded through from SCAN and MCAN, and just donations from people. And then finally, if we were there yet, got to the end, yay, here we are at the end. Hooray. So midlothianwildflowers@gmail.com, there's our website. We want to thank Brian Nicholson Photography, who's also part of our network, who joined in as a volunteer on the Big Butterfly account. Now he's our professional photographer and he's engaged in all this wonderful photography. So it's just great. So it's grassroots networks, building from the grassroots, inspiring and engaging. Thanks to everyone who's provided us with the funds to engage, and I hope it can continue. So that's me.
Hi. So I'm Claire Dufour, and I'm the creative climate producer at Creative Dundee. Very fancy title, but really showing our ambitions to really work in that kind of space and direction within organisations. Creative Dundee is a social enterprise. As the name says, we're based in Dundee. We're a small team. It's only 5 of us, but we connect and collaborate with a large network of people and organizations, locally and regionally and internationally. Our program of activity is very varied. It goes from designing and hosting events and workshops, but also developing tools, resources and strategies, and equity and access is really core to all that we do. We do believe that creativity and culture are essential catalysts for positive change. And I guess in this context of this presentation, I'm going to focus on the fact that we're equipping artists, designers and makers with opportunities, spaces, connections and tools. And as a ripple effect, this enables the growth of sustainable practices and ideas that can lead us to a more creative and just world. Sorry, I'm reading my notes, but I'm just very nervous for this presentation. I'm sure I'm going to lose it up at some point, and I just speak from my heart, but I'm going to stick to my notes just now. We are also big collaborators. Most of the work that we do is in partnership. And as a small team, we were really delighted to be trusted to deliver the Cultivate project, which I'm going to touch on today. And this project was part of a network of 26 projects called Culture Collective, which was funded by the Scottish Government through Creative Scotland. And we was really aiming at shining a light on the crucial importance of participatory arts projects for artists, for communities, but also for the future. And the next slide, please. So we all know that the climate emergency is generating a lot of anxiety within the communities, especially at the margin. And you've touched on that really well, Terry and Julia, in terms of feeling like it's not for us to do actions, but actually it's impacting us the most. Cultivate was bringing together creative practitioners and community groups across the regions to explore climate justice in a very relevant, practical and meaningful way. And this pilot project was always about exploring how we can help local communities to take collective action and creative actions in response to local climate change issues, but also kind of looking at the social injustices that attach to all of this, as you brilliantly already talked about. Our focus was on community resilience and well-being at a very grassroots level, but also it was for us an opportunity to make a case for culture and creativity as a catalyst for positive change. So we worked on this project for 3 years. We had 2 main rounds of creative practitioners commissions. It was 12 in total, but we worked with many creative practitioners in lots of different capacities. The main commissions were ranging from 6 to 10 months. And essentially, the creative practitioners, what we kind of like boiling down to was that they were facilitating safer spaces for people to come together and imagine, share, and celebrate, and organize and plan and act for the future. We have amazing in-depth case studies on our website, which I encourage you to go and have a look at if you're interested. They'll give you a great insight into some of the issues, but also the learning and impacts of each of the commissions that they have explored. There's short films as well, made in collaboration with the community group. Yeah, they're really great, and I'm there if you want to ask me any specific questions on each of the projects. And if we go to the next slide, what I'm going to do is instead share a bit more about the kind of learning approaches that some of the projects have been taken, and what we learned from those projects. Well, the first one, which I kind of already touched on, and for us, like really crucial in the work that we were doing, it was about creating safer and welcome spaces. And I say it's safer because it's never fully safe, and it was really to recognize this idea that we're working towards something, and we can claim more spaces to be safe and fully accessible. But really, those spaces, what they were helping to do was to connect and help people to share their fears and hopes together, really helping that sense of connections and sense of belonging. And no surprise to you, foods and cup of teas, it was very essential for those spaces to be created, but also in terms of recruiting the creative practitioners who would have lived experience or would identify with some of the community groups that we were working with, were also very crucial in terms of understanding the social and cultural context of those groups. It was also very important for us to meet people where they are, where they regularly meet, and where it feels familiar, or to kind of recreate that within the spaces that we were inviting them in. And it's been really amazing. It went to like having a space in a shopping center, or to having a space on the high street that was on a kind of commute route from the young people going from one place to another, catching their bus. And making sure that the food that we provide is actually something that they enjoy, and not just those horrible white sandwiches. The other thing was about how we were using creativity to amplify and celebrate people's lives and experiences and vision for the future. And there was a lot of kind of practices. They were used from storytelling to drawing to writing letters, doing ceramics, having exhibitions and videos and audios, illustration, all of those things. And it was really interesting how, obviously, like most of us in the room, probably all of us in the room, knows how arts and creativity helps navigate those big feelings and find ways to express them and share with people. But there was also something really interesting about how the role of creative thinking to help envisioning the futures and nurturing that kind of agency and hope for the future. I love you quote, Terry, about it's not about what's wrong, it's about what's strong. And I think there was a lot of the learning from a work that actually, before you can design relevant actions for people locally, you need to bring them into that space of hope and agency to like imagine those actions. So a lot of the activities that the creative practitioners were offering were kind of building that up. There was a definite need to celebrate the small actions that was already happening, out of living from poverty or of being excluded to the mainstream things and actions that are most impacting climate change. And by celebrating the small actions, you could galvanize better collective energy. So really about making the spaces non-judgmental, shining a light on what people are already doing to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and how the choices and behaviors might also help with other aspects like finances, mental health, community building. So it was really this idea of exploring actions with multiple benefits. And yeah, you already kind of showed that really brilliantly in the first two presentations. And then the other really interesting learning, and probably something that we also came as an approach, it was this idea of like the importance of sharing and collaborating, sharing knowledge, tools, inspirations, through creating collective creative outcomes, putting an exhibition together or producing a book together, or having that collective imaginations that is then translated into a creative output was like really powerful in terms of giving people that hope and energy to take action collectively. But yeah, so in summary, it was really about fostering that collective creativity for providing the spaces, because we all know that creativity and culture do really bring people together in communities through playing, making, dreaming together. And there's just so much that I could talk about, so I'm kind of looking at the time. I want to make sure I want to touch on everything. So yeah, please do ask me questions and delve into the case studies. And if you go to the next slides, please.
That's 2 minutes left, Claire.
2 minutes? Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to dwell too long into that, but it was just to give you a couple of examples of how it's been noticed by the people who have authorities and can make the decisions in terms of the project like Cultivate, but also many other projects, and the project that has already been talked about today are generating those success stories and creating that hope for positive change. And they are that too, for one contribution, acting both as fighting the climate emergency, but also addressing a lot of the multiple and social health crises that we are facing now. And next slides. So yeah, we were also very privileged to be able to work with a learning and a reflection partner for the second round of the creative practitioners. So they this more in-depth informations about our learnings and our kind of themes and exploration. And we were working with TILT. There is an alternative social research organizations on this report, essentially, to look at those learnings. And yeah, there's just like some really interesting reflections around how artists are in neighborhood spaces and time for a community to impact and understand how they relate to power, privilege and systems, how oh, my presentation is gone.
Sorry, Claire, it was a
little... No, that's all fine. yeah, how the intersectionalities of issues and injustices are like really multiple and overlaps forms of oppressions is really present and complex in when we're looking at community issues and from individuals as well, and we can't tackle it in just one angle. And in the context of climate justice and ecology, it means that we must be aware of how identity interacts with issues and opportunities, how economic factors are often core aspects of like feeling you can take action or not, but also the role of artists in having the spaces where you can have those conversations and ask those questions, and kind of be the facilitator, the storyteller, to both tell the stories of climate justice, but also to help those stories of a better future to develop. Yeah, and if we go onto the next, no, still that slide, few recommendation for us in terms of going forward with that type of work. And that's none of those things that I'm going to say is going to be surprising to you, but I think it's really important that it's recognized and kind of identified. But there was a lot around time, how slow working with communities helps develop trust and confidence, but also how it helps to maintain connections with groups and individuals. Connecting how do we connect with communities has been really interesting, because a lot of our creative practitioners were saying, oh, we would have loved to have a pre-existing groups to work with and would have made our work easier, but actually they've done a tremendous just building community and actually bringing together people that have never been together before and creating that community and their legacy after the projects. A lot of learnings around how do we keep boundaries in that type of socially engaged artwork. Art workers and creative practitioners can be sometimes playing the role of social workers, and although they are all very amazing individuals and they really want to like give it all and be, and they're really like engaged, they're not trained for that, and they're not it's not their work. They kind of do the facilitation and the social work at the same time. So I think it needs to recognize that there needs to be a support in place, and we talk a lot about community connectors, but also being aware of other services that can be a signpost to people in those spaces. And of course, the emotional weight of the work that we're doing, and like, yeah, how do you create more peer support network and support for artists to do that type of work, because it is hard and we all know that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so as a direct legacy of delivering the Cultivate project, we were really delighted to be invited to be part of the Dundee's Climate Action Hub. So alongside 4 other socially engaged and climate-focused organizations, we are doing this partnership, which is like pretty mental, but pretty good in the same time, and is really like the Dundee Change Makers is a very, I think the fabric of it is really different than any of the other climate action hub across Scotland, because it's highly collaborative, but also is really about looking at climate actions. It cannot be dissociated from social justice, and we've already touched on that in the first presentation, but it's really to looking at that multiple benefits of if it's good for the planet, it's good for us, then let's do it.
An introduction to Linda Harper from Tory People's Assembly. So Tory People's Assembly is an open group for local people to work together for positive change in the area of Tory. Tory's second People's Assembly took place in 2023, and it was attended by around 150 people. There was a lot of people over the weekend discussing the challenges that Tory has faced and started thinking through some of the ways that local people can claim the power to make changes in their community and beyond. So such a valuable opportunity for people in the community to voice what they think and what they would like to see through a People's Assembly. And yeah, let's listen from the story. Let's listen from Linda. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, Linda. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How do I follow up these little chats beforehand? But I'll try and do my best. I became part of the Tory People's Assembly because I saw a poster on Facebook. I saw a poster where they were going to hold the event as well. And I dragged my husband along, but he didn't want to take it any further. But I really thought it was a good event to get behind people, try and get more people involved and fight for our community. I keep speaking to people and saying we're trying very hard to change things, but it's just trying to get the changes done and show that we can happen and can go forward. We stay on an area where over the years we've had a sewage works, there's a fish meal factory, jet engines, and they've built a massive incinerator, which is just right beside a primary school. And don't tell me the incinerator, the fumes just go as far, little far, it comes right over Tory, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes over Aberdeen. There also, we've got the new harbour, and the new harbour wants to take over St. Fittick's Park. At the moment, there's a big fight on at the moment about St. Fittick's Park. It's in the courts just now, and there's another review meeting on the 7th of November. They want to take over this area. ETZ say they need this area for the harbour. The roads aren't suitable either, but they haven't thought through the roads, where things was going to be. They just thought that they would get St. Fittick's Park. During the COVID, St. Fittick's Park was used a lot for people getting out and about, going around different areas, having a walk, sort of meeting their friends at a distance. There's lots of nature there. There's deer. There's over 200 birds, different birds. There's butterflies. There's foxes. You know, any kind of wildlife is there. There's a small pond where there's ducks. The council or ETZ put in some workers to try and, you know, see what the land was like, testing it. This vehicle drove through all the bush rushes and ripped them all to bits. The damage that they've done for that, just experiment. It's so unfair what they're doing. This area as well is also fly tipping. There's a lot of people fly tip in that area because the travellers come in as well, and then other people think, oh, they're in, we can just dump our stuff. On the climate side with St. Fittick's Park, I don't know how they want this area, because the area they would like to have is a flood area. So I really don't understand why they want green space when just further up the road there's heaps of brown space areas. The Shell building, it's just been knocked down, it's massive. There's Alton's site, and there's Tullis, which is lying half empty, both of them, or 3/4 empty, that they could build their places there. But I really think that they want to industrialise our area and build houses up in the brown spaces. It just beggars belief. what the reckoning is. Also, in the top of all this, there's been the rat houses. So 500 people have been told they have to get out their houses and they have to move on. Just now there's a big battle going on about the homeowners, and hopefully that'll be sorted out quite soon. But it's not looking good for the homeowners. There's disputes about whether the council knew about it or they didn't know about it. I've been at meetings where they say it was the council previously, but whatever it is, the council is responsible for selling these houses that have had, wrong cement put into it, basically. As they were saying, the Tory People's Assembly had a big meeting and assembly a couple of years ago, which I was involved with. And we found that people wanted to keep the green space, the green area. They wanted to better things in Tory. They liked living in Tory. And we came up with retrofit as well, which is where they try and better the houses, make them more livable for heating and the energy that's produced. At the moment, it's early stages for them, and they're trying to get funding in place to try and do these things. They have got 3 houses that they are looking at the moment and taking data from them. And they've also got the Bridge Cafe, which belongs to King's Church up in North Balnagask. And they're what they're going to do is they're going to see what they can do to upgrade, or if they've got the money to upgrade it. So it's looking positive that they'll have something to show as well, because I do believe showing people what is out there and what it can achieve is a step forward, and maybe more people will come on with that. They've, attending all these, I've been part of the Tory People's Assembly. I've started to go to the Tory Community Council meetings, which is quite exciting. We sometimes feel in Tory that people sign up for these positions here and they're more wanting their own agenda than actually what the people of Tory are looking for. I've been asked to join the Community Council on a number of occasions, and I've said, no, I'd rather poke you from this side. So I have got a list of things that I'm looking for them to put on their Matters of Arising, which has been on previously, but somehow they've come off. But different things that's happening in our area between the Port of Aberdeen, the council, and not including the people of Tory. There's a park area as well that the Port of Aberdeen took over. I asked if I could be involved in the meeting with some other people from Tory. They told me that they'd had the meeting and with the council, and it was all in agreement. I've actually been in touch with somebody from the council, and it's not at the finishing point, and they are going to take on board that myself and some other people from Tory can go along and have a meeting with them, and so I put in what we would like there as well.
Linda,
there's sorry,
that's 2 minutes left.
2 minutes, oh God. Also, apart from that, we have a website and we're trying to connect with, it's Smoo Radio, it's doing the website, and we are hoping to get the community of Tory to come onto this website so that people in the area, if they're moving into the area or they're maybe working in the area, they can go on to Connect Tory and they can find out what children's play groups are on, if the history groups, food banks, just anything like that.